In this episode, I talk with Ian Morgan. He is the director of MBS Accountants. In the episode, we talk about 3 different points: financial control, financial clarity, and financial education. So first off, in a business, you need financial clarity. You need to be doing the bookkeeping. You need to know where everything is going. And then you go into financial control, where you figure out, okay, I need, X amount of dollars to make my life continue to function. I need to take a certain amount of profit from the business. I need, a certain amount of money to run the business. What are my fixed costs? So there's financial clarity, there's the financial control, and then we go into financial education. How much knowledge do you really need to have to properly run the accounting in your business? And then what should you outsource? What should you hire out to other people?
So ultimately, it's, are you able to pay yourself at such a rate that you can be living that life that you want to lead, but also able to meet the other costs then of the company at the same point?
Hey everyone, we're here with Ian Morgan. He is the director of MBS Accountants. Thanks for being here with me.
Thanks, Tyler. It's a pleasure to be on the side.
Awesome. Well, so first off, what is MBS Accountants? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we're a bit more than your traditional accounting firm. We actually work much more for the business owner, and we help to make the business owner financially successful. And we do that through 3 arms effectively of what we do, which is we install financial control, we help educate and deliver financial clarity, and we help on a pathway towards financial freedom.
Perfect. I love it. Well, awesome. And so I noticed, on the website, you guys talk a lot about, different aspects that you guys help out with when it comes to controlling finances and tracking and all of that. So like you said, it's not really pure just accounting. You're also getting involved in the mindset around their financials as well, right?
Yeah, I think as business owners, when we first start out, you've got to have like an element of ego that you think you're capable of doing whatever it is that you're doing better than everyone else.
Yeah.
Often that usually involves something around sales or pushing the ethos of the company and everything you do. Financials probably score quite low at that point and get left.
Yeah.
And our view is that actually what ends up happening is we end up effectively lying to ourselves. And when people ask us, are we being successful? We'll go, oh yeah, I have X number of clients, or we help X number of people, or, oh, I employ 3 members of staff. And I always think that actually it's interesting in terms of it's almost a little lie to ourselves to go, actually the truth of what they're asking is it successful and does it achieve financially what you want to achieve?
Right.
And really the answer is no, but actually that's too painful to accept that. So we sort of break down that barrier first of all and just go, look, let's just accept the main focus of a company is to make you money.
Right.
And if it's not doing that, you need to get comfortable with it and then, and I suppose accept being uncomfortable with it as well.
Yeah.
And then do something about it.
Gotcha. And then I don't know if you guys follow this, but I actually just barely interviewed somebody yesterday that he's a profit first coach. So he teaches people how to put profit first. Do you guys employ that? Do you guys kind of have a similar approach? Yeah,
so we do a similar sort of approach, which is sort of provisioning, but it is this element of, yes, I know Mike McCullowitz's sort of approach, which is, that income less expenses equals profit. And then, right. Can I pay myself? We do an element of reverse engineering that and go, no, you need to work out the profit that you need to make. Yeah. And therefore, what business size do you need in order to make the profit that you want to be able to make?
Gotcha. Cool. And so follow-up question, like what is the kind of maybe the biggest issue that you see business owners making? Like, is it, they don't keep track of their books, they don't have the right forecasting, they just don't know even what's in their bank account? What's like the biggest issue you see?
Yes, I think the biggest issue actually is continually chasing success. It's chasing that next sale, chasing more customers, chasing more clients. We tend to only work with people once they've hit 150, 200,000 pounds worth of income.
Yeah.
And the reason we do that is because they've sort of hit this pain barrier to go, and hang on, I can no longer sell my way out of this problem.
Right.
I need to stop and pause and look back at all these other things that I've probably not been keeping control of.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, when you're starting up, you need money in order to pay the bills. And therefore, I'm not knocking people who, chase sales in those early stages. You need to do that.
Right.
But that biggest problem is now you're getting in your own way. And probably what wasn't built in originally was a cost base for yourself, particularly in service businesses. And it ends up being the case that actually now you need to hire people and now the numbers don't stack up and there's no money left to pay yourself. So yeah, our biggest challenge comes in when people have scaled to a point that's beyond themselves and now all of a sudden the business model doesn't really quite work.
Interesting. And I mean, just to kind of frame it differently, I've heard other people mention it as like, and I think even this comes in with funding, like it's dangerous when a company is successful based off like brute force sales. And so, yeah, you know, the founder, if they're typically like a CEO visionary type, they are kind of that type A personality. They're able to go out and just, you know, like it says brute force sales, like just grind out, you know, the success of the business. But like you're saying, if you haven't built the correct foundation and built out all the right systems, once you put somebody else in there that doesn't have that personality or that charisma or that, you know, brute force mentality, then things start to go downhill.
Yeah, and I'm not sort of trying to say that I'm foolproof in this. I'm talking from my own experience. I spent 10 years leading our company to new levels through doing loads of sales and created absolute chaos. And I was doing the same. I was telling people when they asked about our success, it was, oh, we've got 500 clients, we've got 600 clients. And actually the reality was, I'm not making enough money. I probably could go and get a job and earn more.
Right.
So actually, you mentioned about being a visionary. I came across and read Traction by Gino Wickman. And suddenly my wife, who had founded the company, I just suddenly saw her in a new light. And I was like, she's the integrator.
There you go.
All this control and everything that we can bring is just, right, okay. Let's really get together and work out the best combination we've got. I need to stop going hiring people that I think match my strengths, and I need to hire my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And actually, lo and behold, my wife's right there who covers all of my weaknesses.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Match made in heaven. Well, that's cool. Yeah, no, I mean, on the podcast, I talk a lot about the visionary integrator partnership. And so I love that you brought that up. Like that is so important. Like you said, you know, to figure out who you are and then figure out who you need to bring in to kind of complement your strengths and weaknesses. So one question that came up as you were talking is, you know, like we say, we have maybe some of these glorified metrics that sound cool. Like when we just, you know, are in a conversation with somebody like, hey, I have, you know, 10 people on my team, or, you know, we're making $10 million a year. But then what is actually happening, you know, behind the scenes? Like, oh, well, is any of that money actually making it to your bank account? Or, you know, what percentage, like what's your net margin? So I guess what are the more important metrics that we should talk about? Like what are the more accurate metrics that like really kind of show you the health of the business?
Yeah, so I think realistically, the business is there as a tool to give you as the owner or the owners the life that you want to lead.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's, are you able to pay yourself at such a rate that you can be living that life that you want to lead, but also able to meet the other costs then of the company at the same point? So it's not the fact that actually you're taking all the money out of the company and now you've got no money for taxes, or you've got no money to make payroll or whatever. So for me, it is that really that one figure, that can you pay yourself what you want at this moment in time? And we're always going to live to our means. Yeah. 1 minute is £4,000, $4,000, whatever, then 5, then 6, then 7, and it's going to keep growing. But the point is, can the business sustain that? And is that moving in a sensible fashion where you're not leaving yourself exposed in other areas?
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Well, and so that leads me to another question just about financial education. What should founders know about? What should they be an expert at? So my question is like, how much financial education should founders have before they start outsourcing that to like you guys, or to, you know, accountant, a CPA? You know, when is that trigger of hiring somebody outside of themselves?
I think realistically, actually, the role of the accountant probably should be to be delivering that financial education. And don't get me wrong, this is not to teach the business owner how to be an accountant and to understand taxes. This is for the business owner to be engaged in understanding the financial performance of their business, so they know what a good result looks like and what a bad result looks like. So I think actually, if you're that element that all you're doing is looking at a set of numbers and you're sort of glossing over and going, I don't know what this means, get an accountant who is on board with bringing you along on that educational journey.
Yeah.
and make it clear that I don't want to learn accounts, I don't want to understand tax. That's not the important part. The important part is literally, is this result good or is this result bad?
Interesting. And then, I mean, if you don't have the numbers right off your head, that's fine. But like, I mean, my biggest question when I was first starting is like, well, how much is that going to cost? Like, excuse me, like, you know, kind of ballpark, like for that kind of a role, like that sounds amazing. Like I would love to have that kind of accountant partner with me. But the accountants that I talked to, like, they weren't as invested in the company as much as me. And like, they weren't really interested in a partnership. Like they just kind of wanted to do the tax return, right? And not really make a partnership. So, you know, what kind of cost would we expect to have a partner like that?
Yeah, so I think ultimately it does start at a premium because you remove the DIY type approach where the business owner is dealing with the bookkeeping and maintaining the books. So there's a higher starting point. For us, that tends to start somewhere around £200, £250 a month.
Okay.
So not out of this world in terms of affordability.
Yeah.
But actually, yeah, you're getting somebody then who there's the right level of investment is then given for them, for the accountant then to be able to work alongside you, help you navigate those challenges and help you understand the financials and move forward. Having been there and done the typical accountant model of, yeah, we'll stack it up and we'll file lots of tax returns. The challenge from that is what it feels like, I think, for the business owner is that you exchange money, but you don't get anything really back in exchange. Actually, the government get all the benefits because all we're doing is preparing a tax return or helping advise what the taxes are going to be, and then you pay it, and then I say, fine, we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
And so it feels a very poor value exchange for the business owner, from my view. So actually, one of our major shifts when we moved from that was how do we make sure the business owner gets the value, and the government does get their part, but all they're getting is the fact that taxes got paid. Yeah, so the very fact that we can shift it towards that, I think it's probably more affordable than it probably feels, I think.
Hey everyone, in this quick break, I wanted to give a shout out to Coconut VA. They are making this podcast possible. This podcast is hosted by me, but a lot of the back-end work is actually done by a Coconut VA. I'm the co-founder of Coconut VA, and we find Filipino virtual assistants for US companies. So if you've got a proven business model, you're growing, you need help with operations, general admin, lead generation, or really any help around the business, you could probably hire a Coconut VA. You can find a link on my podcast page, thebtspodcast.com, or at coconutva.com. My podcast is a great example of how a Coconut VA could help you. I've done the work to systematize my podcast, systematize the production process, and now I can bring in a Coconut VA to actually execute that process. If you're ready to delegate tasks, you're ready to hire a Coconut VA. So in terms of like affordability and all of that, so in our company, we hire virtual assistants and we staff virtual assistants as well. And so one of the things that I've realized is I feel like, I don't know, people put accounting at maybe a premium when like there's different tiers of accounting, and like even like tax planning, you know, is a totally separate arena. And so I think what my message to a lot of founders that I talk to is bookkeeping is so vital. Like that's kind of the foundation of everything else. If you're not doing your books, like in our first company, we didn't do any of our books for like the first year or something, and it was the absolute worst. Like, of course, you know, then we had to catch up on all this old data, and we missed out on all of that financial data for that entire year. So if you're not doing your books, you should be. But then again, going to like the affordability of it, again, we hire virtual assistants, so you know the per hour rate is pretty low, and the actual work of bookkeeping I don't feel like is as intense as people think. Would you agree with that? Do you feel like more people, you know, that's a very intimidating task for them?
Yeah, I think money is scary for most people.
Yeah.
And I think often it gets put off because actually it's sort of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And most people run their personal lives just via their bank account. So that actually the very fact that you can go to the bank account and go, oh yeah, that's all fine. In the very early stages when there's maybe only a few customers and there's only a few bills, that works. But I think over the long term, it's a dangerous game, and you're going to take you off the ball, you're going to miss something, and you're going to argue and go, oh yeah, but that was a surprise bill that came up. It wasn't a surprise if you were keeping financial control.
Right.
And you obviously mentioned earlier about financial clarity. We get the most or the majority of our inquiries coming because somebody feels like they don't understand and they don't have financial clarity.
Yeah.
The very first step of what we move somebody back to is financial control. And ultimately, that is a very clear, systemized bookkeeping process. That the complexity is probably within designing the process. But actually within our team, we've got a series of VAs who are managing and monitoring 80% of our bookkeeping process,
Nice.
with then qualified accountants doing the other 20% or so to, the technical elements that's needed. So the process itself probably is complex to design, but the process to actually make sure that you've got financial control and you're keeping things up to date isn't, as long as the process is followed and there's somebody competent and capable to review the outcomes coming off the back of it.
Gotcha.
Where it's very easy for, and I won't name names, but there's plenty of software companies out there who are prepared to go that actually just plug all your data in and it'll do your taxes for you.
Yeah.
I think tax law's still too complex, or artificial intelligence is still not clever enough in order to get that correct.
Yeah.
So don't believe the hype.
I love it. Cool. And yeah, no, I mean, I think all of these are excellent points. So another follow-up question, and I kind of already asked this before, but would you recommend that founders do their own bookkeeping for a season, or, at the beginning? Like, is that helpful for them to kind of walk through those steps?
I think it's very, very easy when you've grown and you've got a business where you are leveraging other people and you've offloaded things. I think it's very easy just to go, oh yeah, everybody should do this from the start. Go and hire lots of people around you. But I think the reality of the situation is, unless you've got funding behind you, you've got bills to pay.
Yeah.
And therefore, it may not be sensible to be hiring somebody to go and do the financials, somebody else maybe to go and do all the legals and HR. And there's going to be some aspects of help that you need. But actually, I think there's an element that you go, actually, first and foremost, you've got to be able to pay the mortgage or the rent and, buy food and live. So actually, yeah, I think in those early stages, yes, it is prudent.
Yeah.
But actually always be ready to go. You'll probably be more bothered by the time that you run out of before the costs or the income becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You will adapt to new levels of income and you'll keep going. You've got to find the balance of when the first right time is to go, okay, I've hit a comfortable level. Now I should start leveraging other people because that will accelerate me further in the long term.
Cool. Yeah, that's perfect. I love it. Like you briefly mentioned, I think it does definitely depend on personality, because like for me, I've done the bookkeeping in both of my businesses so far, and I'm just now outsourcing it just because, like you said, the time, like it doesn't take me long, but like it's just that much of an annoyance now where I want to outsource it. But even like for somebody like my wife, like she doesn't like touching the finances, and so if she were to start her own business, I think she would probably outsource that from day one, or at least month one, right? So I think it definitely depends on just your comfort level. I don't think you have to do the bookkeeping, but I think for those people that are okay with it, it does help, and it does even give you like a better pulse on your business, and you see those numbers rolling in, and you can kind of get a feel of where everything's going.
Yes. Yeah, no, definitely agree. If you know you're a potential numbers person, I think there's an element in sort of, have a go. If you know that it's just a massive weakness and you're not going to be able to make it balance, that's the areas you should be focusing on anyway with business growth, is cover your weaknesses.
Right.
Because ultimately, if your strength is sales, but your weakness is finance, you're going to have to try so hard on finance. You're never going to be as good as the sales, because now you're drained and you're tired, and that's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
So give yourself the opportunity to perform at what you are good at performing at, by offloading the weaknesses.
Yep. Love it. Well, perfect. So you have your own podcast. Could you give us the name of that podcast? What do you guys talk about on there?
Yeah, so the podcast is called the Leaky Bucket Podcast, and it is very much about business owners who have grown to the point of where they're chasing sales and then go, I haven't got any capacity left. I can't fill up with more customers, more clients, more orders. And if they stop, the business stops being successful, because actually there's lots of holes and leaks within their business where money's just then pouring back out. So it's actually, how do you make sure that you've got the effort to focus back on those elements, plug those leaks and those holes, so you can go to the next level and probably find more leaks and more holes.
Yeah.
But then you patch those and you go again.
Right. Perfect. Cool. I love it. Well, yeah, definitely encourage everybody to go listen in there. Ian, do you have any other last questions, last pieces of advice for the audience before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think financial control is the main key. It's massively underestimated. You said obviously in your own business didn't do bookkeeping for the first 12 months or so. Not unusual. I think it's no, we just need to sell, we need to get customers, which is true. But I think also you need financial control because actually the whole point of why you're running and doing that business is because you're trying to make money.
Right.
And you need a way to measure if you're actually making money. Financial control is boring, but it's essential.
Love it. Yeah, totally agree. Well, perfect. Thank you so much, Ian, for all your thoughts and for everything you taught here. So kind of the call to action is to go to his website, mbsaccountants.co.uk, and I'll put a link to that in the description. But yeah, thank you again, Ian, for being here.
Thank you, Tyler. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Startup. If you like the show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a review.